guys, welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today I will be doing my April wrap-up, and I did really well in April again. I got through 10 books, whoop whoop! So the first one that I read, I started reading in March, but I finished in April, which is why I counted for April. It is Heart of Thorns by Bree, Barton. This was in one of the subscription boxes that I get, the bookish box. So it comes with like this author letter and a signed book plate, you know, really cool. I was half and half about it. I ended up giving it 3 stars because there was some potential in there and there was some good things, but I found myself not really caring about the relationships. It seemed forced in there. I thought I was reading a one-shot book. It turns out that there's gonna be a second one, and I don't know, like, I remember in the last 25 to 30 pages, I was like, finally, this is picking up. I mean, for part of the book, I thought we were sticking with 2 stars because the relationships were that flat. But it did pick up towards the end, so I think it really earned that 3 stars, but it's not one that I would, call home to tell mom about, The second one on my list was 5 Feet Apart. Now, I read this one because I wanted to see the movie because I like that actor that's in Riverdale. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I wanted to read the book first before I saw the movie. And most of the time that I was reading it, I was kind of thinking all right, this is like The Fault in Our Stars light, 2 kids that have some terrifying, life-threatening disease. You don't really expect them to make it to the end, or maybe you expect one to make it to the end, and you're kind of like, all right, this is gonna pull at my heartstrings and make me cry a little bit. So I found myself comparing it to The Fault in Our Stars a lot of the way through, but I did enjoy it. And then by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, that was actually different. It was a different story. I had a different outcome with the relationship, and I felt like I learned a little bit more about cystic fibrosis, which I think is good. I think it's good to educate your readers about something they may not know about. And I happen to be one of those readers that I didn't know a lot about CF, so it was eye-opening for me. So I ended up giving that one 4 stars. All right, the next books on my list are from the 9 Lives of Chloe King. That's The Fallen, The Stolen, and The Chosen. Very original, I know. I read one big book that had all of those 3 together, and at first I was going to count it as 1, and then I was like, you know what, no, I'm going to count it as 3, because would I count the complete works of Jane Austen in my big book as 1 book? No, I would not. I would count this as 7. So I'm counting these as 3, and when I was going through, I was like, all right, I guess they'll get 3 stars because it's holding my attention. I mean, it's not great writing, but it's holding my attention at least, and I want to see what happens next. And when I got to the end, I was like, I gotta put them down to 2. It really wasn't great writing, at all. I don't recommend them, okay? I needed to see what happens. I'm that type of person that I read a book, and I need to see what happens, so even if I don't like it, chances are I'm gonna go to the next one. And I read them because I had watched that show that was on, well, now it's Freeform. It used to be ABC Family. And the show wasn't even good, but it left off on a cliffhanger that I was like, well, maybe the book will answer some of my questions. And the book was just as great as the TV show, which is not so great at all. It's about these, ancient Mayan cat people that are against the Order of the 10th Blade, and I don't know. It gets points for originality, okay? Because I haven't read something like that before. But it's campy. It's very campy, and I felt like, okay, is this the intended audience for YA? Really young adults? But, no, okay? I've read a lot of YA books that have some elevated writing, and, I have to think that this is, middle school or something. I don't know. It just wasn't good. If you're looking for a book recommendation, don't read those. All right, next on my list was The Cruel Prince, which is a reread for me. I wanted to read The Cruel Prince before I went into The Wicked King, which I still haven't gotten to yet. The Cruel Prince, I originally gave that 5 stars, and I'm sticking with that because of the world building, the characters. I really found it fascinating. We read this last year for book club, and there was only 2 of us that really loved it, and the rest were like, nah, all the characters are terrible. They're terrible people. How could you like them? But reading again, I was like, you know what? Yeah, a lot of them are terrible people, but it's so interesting. It's a really well-written book. I could see everything very clearly. It had an ending that I wasn't expecting, and I think there's potential to have redeeming qualities for some of these characters. And even if there's not, I mean, it's interesting. I haven't read it before, so I think it's pretty solid. When I get to the Wicked King, I'll let you know if I still feel that way about the main characters. Who knows? Next was Daughtry by Terry Pratchett. That was another pick for book club, and holy jeebus, did I not enjoy that one. Man, like, okay, you have to understand that I have not watched Oliver Twist in a very long time. I don't remember any of the characters' names in it except for Oliver Twist because, you know, main character. So as I was reading, I was like, this kind of feels like fan fiction. Why do I feel this way? And then when I got to book club, they're like, yeah, because it's based on the Artful Dodger and Oliver Twist. Dude, I still don't know who that is, but I apparently read a whole fan fiction book about him. Oof, oof, it was rough. And it was just very pretentious. Like the writing, it felt very like haughty and uppity, and I didn't like it. I didn't. And I listened to the audiobook, and I felt like the narrator was talented, okay? He did give a lot of different voices. I just don't think you could have done anything to interest me in that book, so I ended up giving it 1 star. Oh, I felt really bad because the person that picked it for book club really liked it, and I'm really happy that she liked it and got us all to read it, and the rest of us just hated it. Oh, Kat, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But hey, you know what? It happens to all of us. I think every single book that I picked for book club, everybody's roasted me on too. Then I went on to The Everlasting Rose by Dhonielle Clayton. That is the one that comes after The Bells. And I gave that one 4 stars. I was pretty into it. I read the reviews afterwards, and it seemed like a lot of people were disappointed because it wasn't as good as The Bells. And I mean, I see points for that too. The Bells was very interesting. It was different. It was a different world that we hadn't been to before. And The Everlasting Rose, it kind of took a different turn because we had already been introduced to that world. But still, like, I thought it had good character work. I thought the plot was interesting. I thought the obstacles that came into their way were pretty interesting. They were traveling for a lot of it and trying to, you know, be on the run and hide and everything. So I get why the buzz is not as good for that book as it is for The Bells. But I still enjoyed it. When I got to the end, I was like, okay, you know, that feels like an ending for me. I don't see how they can go on unless you take it in a completely different direction, which I think is what Dhonielle Clayton plans to do. I mean, she better, because the plot here was kind of wrapped up, unless you're okay, I don't want to ruin anything, but it needs to take a different course if she's going to go on to a 3rd book. And may I just say that I have not liked Amber from the beginning. I don't know what Camellia ever saw in her. I don't know if any other readers have actually liked Amber, but I just want it written down that Amber is a really terrible person, has never been a good person. She's not redeeming in the least. The next on my list was Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian, and this was a reread for me. I originally gave it 4 stars, and when I read it the second time through, I gave it 4 stars again because I enjoyed it just as much. And the plot sounds kind of cookie cutter. You know, this girl wants to take back her throne. All right, I know. There are a lot of YA books where these girls want to take back their throne, and I am the target audience. Anytime I even hear something like that, I'm like, great, sign me up. Let's see how this girl does it with her tribe, you know? Like, it's a good time. And I just thought this one was a little different because I like stuff with magic in it, and this one has, like, the water gems and stuff. I'm not going to go into big detail because if you are like me and you want to read about a girl taking back her throne, I don't want to tell you all the new little things in there that you'll like. I want you to be surprised by them too. But it does have some magic. It does have like the potential for a love triangle, which is another trope that I enjoy. But it's not like a beat you over the head with a love triangle kind of thing. So it's a little different, and I'm enjoying it. I am actually listening to the audiobook right now of the second one. So that one will be in my May wrap up. And so far, I'm liking it. So I'm thinking it's going to get 4 stars. We will see. We will see. And the last one on my list, I kind of read intermittently throughout the month. Like, you have to understand, I use the Overdrive library app, so when some of those audiobooks come up like, hey, you were next in line and now you have it, I kind of stop what I'm doing and listen to that one and then go back to what I was listening to. So my last one is Ghosts of the Shadow Market. It's primarily by Cassandra Clare, but she works with a lot of different authors on a lot of those stories. It was a collection of 8, I think. I want to say there was 8 short stories in there. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. But I have to say, like, I hate that novellas are becoming required reading for continuing on with a series. To me, novellas or collections of short stories should be just something to support the story that you've already gotten fans interested in. Like, for example, Three Dark Crowns, okay? You know that I really like that series. I know that there's a novella that goes with it that tells a little bit of the backstory behind the Queens of Fenburn. Haven't read it, don't know if I will, but I also don't need it to continue on with the stories. You know, that's what a novella should be. With Cassandra Clare, she's like making these novellas or collections of short stories, and they're becoming required reading that it's like, oh, when am I supposed to read this? You know, I got through the Ghosts of the Shadow Market, and then I realized that it answered some of the questions that I had for the Dark Artifices, and it's like, I was supposed to read this before I read the third Dark Artifices book. Like, that's just annoying to me. They should not be required reading. They should be supportive reading. Like, hey, you liked this, let me just give you a little fluff over here, give you some backstory, and you can go back to the main story. That's what it should be. I don't like that it's being required, because I usually don't pick up novellas. I don't know why. I want the main meat, you know? I want to read the entire story. I want the big bulk. I don't want the little fluff on the side. But now I've learned with Cassandra Clare that I need to read all the fluff. Ugh. It's annoying, and I should probably stop, but I won't, because I like the Shadowhunter world. I just wanted to say that I was annoyed, and it sounds like I didn't like this, but I did. I gave it 4 stars. I found most of the stories really interesting, so it did get 4 stars. I just needed to vent that I hate that it's required reading. Okay, so that concludes my 10 for this month. Coming up next month, I told you that I was in the middle of the second Ash Princess book, which is called Lady Smoke. And I've also started the Diviners by Libba Bray, because that was on my bookshelf, alphabetical order. And so far, I'm not that far into it, but I am enjoying it more than the audiobook, probably because I'm hearing the details, seeing the details, hearing them, whatever. Okay, I'm getting the details. I'm getting them that I was missing on the audiobook. I will let you know if that carries on, because it's a big book, so we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. I will catch you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.